My wife said, "You don't get a pregnancy announcement." She thought it was funny until I walked away. Now, 8 months later, she's desperate to talk. 67 unread messages. My husband, 33M, and I, 33F, both earn high salaries, bringing in around $200,000 each per year. We fully own our home, have no debt, and save nearly half of our income. While most of our finances are shared, we each allocate $1,500 per month, plus any extra income from bonuses or side gigs, for personal spending on hobbies, luxury purchases, and social outings that don't involve the other. My husband tends to spend his entire budget each month due to his expensive hobbies, mainly golf, whereas I usually save most of mine since my interests, like running and baking, are less costly. Recently, I got back into gaming and, having saved up a significant amount of my personal funds, spent $5,000 on a high-end gaming setup, including a desk and chair. My husband was furious, accusing me of financial infidelity, despite the fact that I was following what I believed to be our agreed-upon financial rules by using my own allocated money for hobbies. Update. After discussing the issue, my husband revealed that his frustration wasn't just about the money. Instead, he admitted he felt I lacked professional ambition because I wasn't pursuing an executive track career like he was. Additionally, despite my full-time job, he expected me to put more effort into cooking elaborate meals, setting the table more elegantly, and dressing up for dinner, essentially wanting me to take on the role of a 1950s housewife. Further update. As I reflected on his expectations, I became increasingly uneasy. It felt as though no matter what I did, he would keep shifting the goalposts. To test this, I decided to meet some of his demands over the weekend, not because I thought they were reasonable, but because I suspected they were part of a larger issue. On Saturday, I went to a salon for a makeover, including a haircut, highlights, and a manicure. I then visited a farmer's market to buy fresh flowers and gourmet ingredients for a special at-home steakhouse-style dinner, since we usually go out on Saturday nights. I prepared lobster bisque, homemade bread, crab-stuffed mushrooms, filet mignon, au gratin potatoes, and white chocolate mousse with raspberries. I wore a lavender sheath dress, high heels, and had my hair and makeup fully done. His response? A lukewarm, "Thanks, it was tasty," and a kiss on the cheek, while I handled all the serving and cleanup. The next morning, he suggested I make brunch at home instead of dining out. I prepared French press coffee, fresh squeezed mimosas, Belgian waffles with bananas Foster topping, Parmesan herb scrambled eggs, roasted fingerling potatoes, and maple glazed bacon. Again, I dressed up, this time in a blue sundress with wedge sandals, complete with styled hair and makeup. His reaction was another bland, "Thanks, it's good," and once again, he offered no help with serving or cleaning. When I later asked if this was what he had in mind when he criticized me before, he simply said it was a start and accused me of acting entitled for wanting recognition for basic adulting. Then, he dropped a bombshell. He claimed he had been hard on me because he believed I had a lot to make up for, because, in his words, I was a low-value woman. Stunned, I asked what he meant. He explained that since I wasn't a virgin when we met, I had to compensate for the rest of my life. I was in complete shock. We started dating at 21, and neither of us expected the other to be a virgin. I had been open about my past relationships, 2 committed partnerships, one with my high school boyfriend and another during my first year of college. He had never raised an issue about this before. Then, he took it further. He said that because of my low value, I didn't deserve monogamy or equal treatment. He claimed I was lucky anyone wanted to marry me at all and admitted he had already connected with someone at work. He bluntly told me that if I wanted to keep him, I needed to step up. That was the moment I realized there was nothing left to save. I told him if he no longer loved, liked, or respected me, then there was no relationship worth holding on to. He agreed and said he'd gladly stay at his girlfriend's place. I know many people warned me that he was likely having an affair, but I didn't want to see it. I had convinced myself that he was just going through a stressful time at work or that he genuinely wanted to work on our marriage. Now, I see how foolish I was to believe that. I've taken the week off to clear my head and have an appointment with a lawyer tomorrow. I canceled our marriage counseling session but scheduled an individual therapy intake later this week. He and his girlfriend will be coming by tonight to collect more of his belongings, so I'm preparing myself for that. One thing I want to make clear, I do not believe I am low value in any way. I allowed him to make me doubt myself for a brief moment, but now I see this was entirely his issue, not mine. We no longer share the same goals or values, and I don't even recognize the person he has become. Divorce won't be easy, but I know I'll be okay. I'm grateful to those who helped me see the truth before I wasted more time in a marriage that was already over. Update. Hi everyone, I hadn't planned on posting another update so soon, but I've received numerous messages checking in on me, so I wanted to respond to those who've been asking how I'm doing. To recap, I originally shared that my husband accused me of financial infidelity after I spent $5,000 of my own allocated fun money on a gaming setup, despite staying within our agreed-upon budget. Later, he revealed that his real issue wasn't the purchase itself but what he saw as my lack of professional ambition, even though we earn the same salary as senior software developers. He also wanted me to put more effort into home-cooked meals, home decor, and my appearance. Things escalated when he called me low value for not being a virgin when we met, even though neither of us were, and he never once brought it up in 12 years together. Finally, he admitted he was having an affair with a younger coworker who had been a virgin, yes, it's as disturbing as it sounds, and moved in with her. Many people have asked how things went with him retrieving his belongings and my legal consultations, so here's an update for those interested. He was supposed to pick up his things on Tuesday evening but cancelled last minute because Amy, his girlfriend, wasn't feeling well. Turns out, as some suspected, she's pregnant. He told me this over text, which means I now have written proof of his affair rather than just his admission. I didn't want to keep dealing with his schedule changes, so I decided to take control of the situation. I packed up his things myself and arranged for movers, which I felt was the best way to avoid having him, or them, in my home. A friend had already planned to be with me on Tuesday, so we spent the evening packing up his clothes and personal items. The movers came yesterday to pick everything up, including the few pieces of furniture he wanted, mainly from his home office and dresser. Since Amy's apartment is small, he didn't take much. To avoid any accusations, I documented everything with an inventory list and photos, which he approved. Now, he can't claim that anything was damaged or missing. After that yesterday I went to the clinic to get STD tests, won't have the results for a week or so, but thankfully I haven't had any symptoms, and met with my lawyer, who said I had a good case for grounds of adultery and mental cruelty if I need to go that route. At a minimum it's leverage to get him to settle quickly and quietly. Also lock down all the finances within the parameters provided by the lawyer so that he can't empty our joint funds or take anything that belongs to me, changed account beneficiaries and all that fun stuff. Changed the locks to the house too. Following the advice of some commenters, I've decided to get rid of the bed and other bedroom furniture I shared with him. I'm donating everything, and someone is coming this afternoon to pick it up. I plan to completely redecorate the bedroom to match my own style, though that will take some time, so for now, I'll be staying in one of the guest rooms. I'm also treating myself to a spa weekend, leaving tomorrow morning and returning Sunday night. A little change of scenery before heading back to work next week sounds like exactly what I need. And yes, even after purchasing my gaming setup, I still have plenty of fun money left, enough to cover my lawyer's retainer, redo the bedroom, and enjoy this getaway, with a comfortable cushion left over. Cheers to smart budgeting when it matters. That's about it for now. Honestly, I think I'm doing better than I expected. With each passing day, I'm realizing how one-sided my marriage had become over the last couple of years, him expecting me to handle everything at home and all the emotional labor of managing our lives outside of work, without any help or appreciation. Amy is definitely in for a reality check. Edit, once again, thank you all so much. I'm about to head out for my spa weekend, so I may not be able to reply to every comment or DM, but I truly appreciate all the support and encouragement. Hopefully, there won't be any major updates for a while. I just want a smooth, straightforward divorce and to move on with my life. Fingers crossed. Update. Not sure if anyone remembers, but earlier this summer, I shared a series of posts, links are in my profile, about my situation. It started when I bought an expensive gaming PC, desk, and chair using my own allocated, fun money, which led to my husband accusing me of financial infidelity. Later, he admitted his real issue was disappointment in my career path. I'm a senior software developer but not aiming for executive management, my casual appearance, not dressing up for dinners at home, and the fact that I wasn't preparing elaborate multi-course meals every night. When I tried making changes to my cooking and appearance, it became clear that it wouldn't actually make him happy. That's when he accused me of being low value, because I wasn't a virgin when we met in college, something he had never mentioned as an issue in our 12 years together. Soon after, he confessed to having an affair with a coworker, who is now pregnant. In my last update, I mentioned that he had moved in with Amy, his coworker, and that we had started the divorce process. I'm posting this update because so many kind people have reached out with well wishes and to check on how I'm doing. Apologies for not updating sooner, but after returning from my spa weekend, I was fully focused on working with my attorney to finalize the divorce settlement. With everything still up in the air legally, I didn't think it was wise to share details online, even anonymously. The good news? We reached an agreement quickly, and everything is now finalized, just waiting for the court date, which could take a couple of months. My lawyer assures me that the agreement is solid. While the outcome may not be as favorable as many of you would have wished for me, I prioritized getting things wrapped up as soon as possible. That said, I did secure everything that truly mattered to me. The house I inherited from my grandmother remains 100% mine, along with all its furnishings. My retirement accounts and fund money account are fully mine as well. I did have to give him 75% of our shared cash assets, which I was willing to do since he had contributed significantly to the renovations and upkeep of the house, which has appreciated considerably since we moved in. I'm not worried, though. I still have more than enough, and since I live fairly frugally, I can rebuild my savings quickly. Our agreement also states that neither of us has any claim to each other's past, present, or future earnings. This means that if he loses his job before the court date, I won't be responsible for alimony, making this a very solid and secure deal for me overall. In case anyone is wondering how we got this done so quickly, our state allows divorce on mutual consent grounds, which basically allows for a quick divorce without a legal separation period if the parties come to an agreement about all the finances/assets. Given that Amy is pregnant, my soon-to-be ex, let's call him Joe, yes, like the psychopath in the show You, was also very motivated to not drag this out. Now for the real dirt of this update. Last weekend, shortly after all our papers were signed, Amy reached out to me. She asked if we could meet and talk. Perhaps I should have declined, but I will admit I was curious about the 24-year-old prodigy and until recently a virgin person who was Joe's affair partner, so I agreed to meet her for lunch. So, the first thing is, Amy is very pregnant, like third trimester. She confirmed she is due in mid-October, which means the affair has been going on a whole lot longer than Joe let on. Whatever, it's water under the bridge as the divorce is almost final. However, after some polite but chilly pleasantries, she asked me, when am I going to be moving out of the house? Because surely Joe has been patient enough with giving me time to get my life together? And her apartment is small and they are needing space for the baby. What? I immediately told her she must be mistaken because the house belongs to me. I inherited it from my grandmother. But then I asked her, what else has Joe told you about me and our marriage? And that's when the floodgates opened. Lie after lie, all courtesy of Joe, poured out of her mouth, mixed in with bits of the actual truth. Here are some of the most outrageous things he told her. It was true that she and Joe met at work, but it happened a year ago when they were both applying for the executive training program they're now in. According to Amy, they started off as friends before their relationship turned romantic. However, Joe told her that while he was still legally married, we had been separated in spirit and living separate lives since 2020. He claimed he didn't want to kick me out and leave me homeless during the pandemic because I supposedly didn't make much money, and we lived in a high cost of living area. Joe spun an entirely false story about how we met. He told Amy that he had been mentoring me in a GED prep program in our early 20s, painting me as a high school dropout struggling with addiction. According to him, he had rescued me, helped me get clean, tutored me for my GED, and supported me financially while I slowly worked toward a college degree. He also told her that I was currently making $45,000 as a help desk technician, preparing for an IT career, and that he wanted to ensure I could afford at least a studio apartment. As if that wasn't enough, he also claimed that we had separated because I had relapsed and that he couldn't be in a meaningful relationship with a drug addict. Yeah, none of this is true. My entire history with drugs consists of sharing a joint in college maybe 4 or 5 times, nothing more. It was true that Amy had been a 24-year-old virgin prodigy. But she seemed uncomfortable when she realized Joe had shared that detail with me. She clarified that it wasn't a moral stance, she had simply been too focused on school and work to date. She also mentioned that guys her age, especially the younger finance bros, were mostly interested in casual hookups, which she wasn't into. But Joe had actually taken the time to get to know her and seemed interested in something meaningful. I asked her if the pregnancy was planned? She said no, of course not, but it was a miracle because Joe had a vasectomy, so they took that as a sign that they should keep the baby. No, Joe did not have a vasectomy. As we were planning to be a child-free couple, I suggested it a couple times over the years. He firmly stated he didn't want to alter his body like that, so he left birth control as my responsibility. So, it really does seem like Amy isn't to blame here. Sure, those of us with more life experience would probably be skeptical of a man claiming to be separated while still legally married and living with his wife. But given that she had no prior dating or relationship experience, I can understand why she believed everything he told her. After all, I didn't realize anything was wrong with Joe until just a couple of months ago, and I was married to him. Naturally, Amy didn't want to believe me, and I don't blame her for that either. She's been with Joe for nearly a year, is over 7 months pregnant with his child, and that baby is coming whether she's ready or not. I couldn't immediately disprove everything Joe told her, but I did show her a couple of things: a picture of me as a teenager with my grandmother in front of my house, and my LinkedIn profile, which clearly lists my actual job and education. I told her she could do whatever she wanted with that information, just that I hoped she would stay safe and take care of herself. Then I said my goodbyes. The whole thing felt strange, unexpected, and surreal. Apologies for the long update, but I figured those who've been following my story would be interested in this turn of events. I'm not sure if I'll post again, maybe in a year or so, when I've had time to fully process everything through therapy and, hopefully, moved on to living my best life. As for Joe and Amy, that's their mess to sort out. I hope she realizes the truth and leaves him, but I'm not holding my breath. Joe has a way of spinning everything in his favor, that's just who he is. But at the end of the day, that's not my problem anymore. Update. Hey everyone. Not sure if anyone remembers my story since it's been a few months, but earlier this year, I posted about my husband, Joe, accusing me of financial infidelity, all because I spent some of my own savings on a gaming PC and home office setup. This was well within our agreed-upon spending limits, yet it spiraled into him unfairly criticizing my appearance, career, and housework. Eventually, the truth came out: he was having an affair with a coworker, Amy, who was pregnant. We separated right after that, and he moved in with her. Also, just a heads up, this update is long. Apologies in advance. When I last posted, we had quickly settled our divorce terms, allowing me to protect my most important assets. I had also met with Amy at her request, where it became painfully clear that Joe had fed her lie after lie. He told her he owned our home, I actually inherited it from my grandmother, that I was an underemployed high school dropout and drug addict. Completely false. I have a master's degree and a well-paying tech job, that we had been spiritually separated for years. Not true. I had no idea about the affair until he blurted it out this summer, and that he had a vasectomy, also false. He considered it but ultimately decided against it, despite his strong stance on not wanting kids. I told Amy the truth and backed it up with evidence, but she didn't seem to believe me and went back to Joe. I know a lot of people have been asking for an update, but I wanted to wait until my divorce was finalized to avoid any complications. Now, I can finally say, I'm divorced. The final decree came through a few weeks ago. The whole process went smoothly, and I'm incredibly grateful to live in a state that allows couples to fast-track their divorce if they can agree on finances and property. As for Joe and Amy, things were quiet for a couple of weeks after my last post, until Amy reached out again just before her due date. She wanted to know if I had reconsidered her offer of $17,000 to vacate the house quickly so she and Joe could move in. Once again, this is the house I inherited and own outright, but Joe told her he owned it and was just giving me time to get my finances together before evicting me. At that point, I decided enough was enough. I sent Amy a full package of evidence exposing Joe's lies. This included a copy of the deed and property tax records proving I am the sole owner of the house, copies of my diplomas to prove I am not a high school dropout, documentation of my professional associations, awards, and income to show I have a senior-level job and am not underemployed. My drug test results from the past 5 years, since my workplace requires regular testing, to prove I have never struggled with addiction. Timestamped photos and text exchanges showing that Joe was still romantically involved with me up until July, nothing inappropriate, just affectionate pictures and loving messages. A text exchange from a couple of years ago where we discussed his decision not to get a vasectomy. A couple days later she responded, she believed me. However, in the end it didn't matter as Joe convinced her he had lied for very good reasons. The way they both tell the story, they met at work and were incredibly drawn to each other, in a way that felt inevitable. However, due to Joe being married, he felt that if Amy knew he was, to that point, happily married, she would either turn away from him and miss out on the love of a lifetime, or she would go ahead with an affair but be consumed with guilt. So, to avoid either of these outcomes, and especially to save Amy from guilt, Joe decided to create an alternative narrative in which he was in a marriage that had ended for all intents and purposes years ago, in all ways but legally, because I was an uneducated addict who kept relapsing and couldn't get my life together. That was she could essentially believe he was single. How noble of Joe, to bear all the guilt alone/s. Unfortunately, Amy chose to forgive Joe immediately. With her baby due any day, I can somewhat understand the need to justify his lies, even though the reality is truly disturbing. That said, it's no longer my concern. She gave birth over a month ago, and I suppose she and Joe will build whatever life together, or not, that they're meant to have. As for me, I'm doing great. I recently received a major promotion at work, not a management role, which I have no interest in, but one that allows me to take on higher profile projects with a 40% raise. The house felt too big for just me, so I now have two roommates, a friend who is also going through a divorce and my younger cousin, mid-20s, who recently moved to the city for work. Living together has been a lot of fun. I'm not quite ready to start dating again, still working through everything in therapy, but I'm getting there and excited for whatever comes next. This will probably be my last update, at least for this story. With my divorce finalized and no lingering financial or personal ties to Joe, the best thing I can do is step away and focus on my Joe-free future. Thank you all for following my journey throughout 2023, I genuinely appreciate the support and advice you've shared along the way.